Welcome to a special recording of Mental Health Question Time. I'm Alex Davis.
I'm Chloe Henderson.
Let's meet our panel today.
I'm Becky Bow. I'm Student Wellbeing Advisor within Student Affairs.
I'm Selina Aisha Jahangir, BCU graduate.
Dr. Sophie Drennan, biological psychologist who specialises in stress.
And I'm Vicky Glynn, Vice President, Student Experience.
Our first question comes from a member of the Students' Union. They ask, do you think chocolate is a suitable source of endorphins when experiencing low mood? So, Becky.
Well, we all know chocolate is the best thing to fight off a dementia attack, don't we? But I'm not sure about the technicalities behind this. What I would say is if you are eating chocolate, make sure it's part of a balanced diet. There's no harm in indulging in a treat if you're feeling stressed, but make sure that you don't then not have other things because you've had chocolate. So including lots of kind of vegetables and a balanced diet as part of that.
Okay.
If I may jump in with more of the technical side, absolutely right. It's the high content of cocoa that does stimulate the beta endorphins, which do make you feel happier. But on the flip side, it's the sucrose and the aspartate in sugary foods such as chocolate that will stimulate the opioid receptors. So that's what makes you want to crave it. In relation to, say, helping you study or go through a stressful time, it's more about what that food makes you feel. Why do you want to consume chocolate in particular? Is it because you like chocolate and you use it as a reward to say, okay, I've been revising for an hour, therefore I'm going to have some chocolate, or I need a break, so it's a reason to go and buy chocolate. But it's also about that it can stimulate negative emotions, how it makes you feel after you've eaten it, if it's going to bring guilt, if you have negative emotions associated it. So it's more about the why you want to eat the chocolate in the first place and the context as well. But really, I think the question is more looking for an excuse to be like, is it okay to eat chocolate? And it's like, yes, it is. But as long as you're mindful that you're not eating it and then experiencing negative emotions after it.
Okay, to follow that, we have a question from Amanda, who asks, how do you personally manage your stress, and do you have any strategies that you could share? I'd like to open that to Vicky.
It's quite well known, I'm quite a keen knitter, and that just half an hour just really brings my sort of stress levels down. Even if it's 15 minutes that I can squeeze into a day, it's almost a mindful thing as you do each stitch. Your mind just wanders and processes the thoughts of the day, and there's just something so relaxing about it. I think I'd be lost if I didn't do it. So yeah, knitting, craft, definitely.
Okay, does anyone have anything to add to that?
Personally, like as a student, like ex-student, basically, like how I used to manage my stress was like being creative and like doing a lot of art journaling and also like making videos and like just staying calm really a lot and like sit in a quiet place. So yeah, that's what I used to do.
Okay, does anyone else have anything?
I think for me, personally, I like to read. So even if I just before bed, I get off my phone and I read and I just feel a lot better and I can sleep. So I just feel a lot more relaxed. So yeah, reading.
When it comes to stress and alleviating stress, one should keep in mind that the coping strategies and mechanisms that you use are not there to eliminate stress completely. It's about managing it. So it is very subjective and individual, however you go about it. I would say for me, it's exercise and running. Again, it's that purely escapism. I don't do it to be social with other people. It's something I do for myself. But it's more about the types of strategies you use consciously. So are you using emotion-based strategies, which are more female-centric, where you talk, where it's about alleviating how you feel in relation to a stressor? Are you using more goal-orientated strategies, which is about trying to manage the physicality of stress? Or as avoidant coping strategies, which are probably the most harmful, which you try and deny that there's even a problem in the first place. And in an educational setting, that could be procrastination, about not getting work done, So it is, I suppose, being mindful, and that word is probably going to pop up a lot across this panel, about how you are consciously facing the stress and how you are consciously coping with them as well.
Okay, Becky, do you have anything to add to that?
Quite similar things to what people have already said, really. For me, I find cooking quite a good mindful activity, which is something I can do every day. It's a good way to kind of rewind at the end of the day. Also, a bit of escapism. It's quite helpful for me to switch off from things that have happened during the day. Could be watching a film, watching Netflix, reading a book, and trying to stay off my phone for a while in the evening. I find quite helpful.
Okay, this comes from a final year student in the BLSS faculty. They ask, how would someone know when they are stressed, and do you have any suggestions of who to speak to about this?
From a biological and psychological point of view, your body does provide you with cues that you may not think you're stressed, but your body will be telling you it's stressed. So when the hormone cortisol is released, it affects the whole central nervous system. So it will affect your stomach, your gastrointestinal lining. So if you get fluttery feelings in your tummy, or you have problems with acid reflux, that's why. You'll sweat more, so your pores will open. You'll lose slight motor control, so you could start shaking, that feeling before you go to an exam or a nervous situation, possibly in this situation. Your speech might be affected, your saliva will decrease. So there are all these little cues you can be aware of. And unfortunately, the more they progress, the more anxiety could kick in. So your levels of anxiety will increase as well. And I know at the university they do have a lot of support for mental health well-being.
Yeah. I think sort of following on from that, the physical symptoms, I know something I've experienced when I'm feeling stressed is a really strange feeling in my hand that I can't explain. It's almost like a clenching feeling. And I know it's something my doctor said is perfectly normal. But yeah, it's just a real physical thing sometimes. And I think people forget that it's not always just sort of the thoughts that are in your mind and your workload that's making you stressed. It can be a very physical feeling as well.
Personally, with my own stress, I find that if I constantly work, I don't notice my stress as often. However, when I stop and take a break, I realise how much work I have to do, and that stresses me out even more so. Ash?
Personally, like when I actually first had stress, I went to the doctor straight away, and basically they just said that it's like a severe stress because like I was like a third year student and had like dissertations and like coursework, and basically like there was like a lot of like stress going through, and they always used to like say to me to go to therapy or just like have some medicine, but I used to never really have it because like I felt like I wanted to self-motivate myself to get better, and like it did take quite a long time to actually cure the severe stress. Like I had to try a lot of things, be creative, and like instead of like having medicine because it would just cause more pain. So that's how I used to do it. And like for future people that actually like experience stress, like it's really important that you get it checked by the doctors because that's really important as well.
Okay, so next question. What are your top tips for managing stress?
Shall I jump in there? We do ask this question whenever we do a wellbeing event. We have this thing called a mind apple tree, where we have a kind of a tree and we ask people what top 5 things they do to kind of manage stress and look after their wellbeing. And we have a huge range of answers, which I think just goes to show that different things work for different people. So it's important to recognise that if something works for your friend, it's good to try that out, but that may not necessarily be the best thing that will work for you. But some things that commonly do work are things like exercising, being connected to other people, talking to other people, maintaining kind of healthy lifestyle, healthy living, healthy eating, that sort of thing. Having something that you enjoy to do. So like Vicky said, for her, it's kind of arts and craft-based activities. For some people, that could be music. For other people, like me, it could be cooking. So just kind of take the time to explore what works for you. Things like mindfulness, meditation, it can be really helpful in terms of managing stress, and talking to someone. So we've already had ideas, talking to maybe a therapist or a counsellor if that carried on, and you may need further support with that.
Okay, Sophie, as a specialist in stress, what would you have as your top tips?
Often or not, when someone is stressed, they won't recognise it themselves. It will be those people around them that will be concerned about them, and there can be a defensiveness, because there is still a stigma attached to anything that someone could perceive as being a weakness. And when you think about it, 30 years ago, stress wasn't even something recognised clinically. But now we have stress-related disorders and anxiety and depression, which can occur from a very young age onwards. So it is about being open about yourself, about almost open to being challenged by friends or family when they come to you with concerns. And in relation to an academic environment, it's about maintaining your viewpoint on achievable goals. So many students at the moment are within the exam period or within their final year, and there's this realization that, oh my gosh, if I don't do this, I won't get that, and then I won't achieve that. So instead of looking at what they can achieve, even day to day, okay, if I write 200 words now, if I revise for an hour, it's about making your situation and the context be manageable. And some coping strategies that people use are classed as maladaptive and can actually cause more harm and detriments in the end, and that's more linked with behaviours. So if people rely on drinking too much alcohol or smoking, or even something that exercise can be used to in excess. So it's just an awareness of how you're feeling will be reflected in your behaviours and also your emotions. So to be aware of not to get into that vicious cycle.
I think just picking up on a couple of points that came from Becky as well, it's about talking to someone who is qualified as a counsellor or so forth, but also not everybody wants to talk to a friend, and I know the university obviously offer Big White Wall, and I think actually if you do want to talk to someone, that is a way of getting it out there. There is still, as you say, that stigma attached to having something like stress or anxiety. And I think using a resource like Big White Wall is really good. From the event we held yesterday, we had a lot of responses as to tips for stress. And there are things in there that are really useful, such as exercise. But again, like you say, there are things in there also that could be detrimental. Naps, I mean, yeah, it's great to take a nap, but if you take too many naps, you're going to affect your whole sleep cycle. You're going to sort of have that knock-on effect of not doing your work because you're having naps. So it is, I think, it's important to balance what your coping strategies are, but also doing what you need to do and tackling those things as well.
That actually leads us nicely onto another question from a student. What is Big White Wall and how would someone use it? So, would anyone like to answer that?
I can take that one. So the good thing about Big White Wall is that you can access it at any time of day or night, which isn't the case for most services. So that is really positive. It's an online community where you can talk to other people who also use Big White Wall. You can get quite creative with it, so you have the option of creating a tile that can represent what your current mood or feelings are. But you can also talk to a counsellor on there one-to-one, as well as having the community support. The counsellors on there have been qualified for at least 2 years, so they're experienced counsellors. So that's really helpful to be able to just go on and talk to someone at any time if you need to. But they've also got workshops that you can do from home. So there's a variety of different workshops on there, including things like managing anxiety, managing low mood, healthy lifestyle. And that's something that you can do from wherever you are, from your room, if you don't want to kind of come in and access those sorts of things, either in the university or outside.
Okay. Our next question actually comes from the floor. Could the student ask their question, please?
Yes. question I've got is, what services are in place at the university to help students cope with stress? And how do you feel that these services could potentially be bettered in any way?
I'm happy to start on that one. Not on sort of current services, but I think on improving the services. So one of the things I've campaigned for this year is the Student Minds Peer Support Group. And I think it's a positive minds course. It's for people who might be suffering with stress, low mood, mild depression. And Student Minds will give student volunteers the opportunity to receive the training to facilitate those groups. As I say, it's a 6-week course. But I think the implementation of that is not only a brilliant opportunity for students to volunteer and get something really solid on their CV, but also it's a way of students having that community, of realising that when they have got such issues as stress, mental health illness, they're not on their own, but they are also receiving practical face-to-face support that will help them get through the period of stress that they're experiencing and continue successfully with their course.
I can talk a bit more about that as well. So obviously we've discussed Big White Wall. There's quite a wide range of support that's available for students within the university. So there's support within the faculty, which would be things like the personal tutor support if the stress is related to any difficulties someone might be experiencing on their course. We've also got student success advisors who are recent graduates who students can meet with and talk to again about any course-related difficulties. We've also got quite a wide range of wellbeing support available through Student Affairs, so that's the team that I work for. So I work for mental health, wellbeing and counselling team, and we've got mental health advisors, student wellbeing advisors and counsellors as part of that team. And we offer practical as well as therapeutic support to students. Trying to think if there's any others. The Student Union also offers quite a wide range of activities, things like BCU Active. Lots of societies. Being involved in a society can really help manage stress and help create balance whilst at university, meeting other people. I don't know if you want to say a bit more about that, Vicky.
What I would say is BCU Active has just finished, but it is carrying on with BCU Sport. So it's almost been taken over by the university, so there are still opportunities to get involved with sport, either through the university or through the Students' Union. I think also just coming back to that whole personal tutors, but not just going to your personal tutor, going to your GP as well. You know, if that stress is constant and continuous, make sure you go to your GP and get support. Whether it be in the form of medication or counselling, again, it's another avenue of support that you can get.
We link students quite a lot to external services such as GPs and local mental health services as well. So we can point them in the direction of other services that are available if our service isn't suitable for them or they'd like to explore other options.
This question is more specifically aimed at the 3 or 4 who have been students at Birmingham City University. First part is, have you had to use these services, and how did you find them helpful?
So during my time at university, I started at university with undiagnosed depression and anxiety. Then I had my son, I took a year out, and during that period I was then diagnosed with postnatal depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. The support I had from sort of a personal tutor point of view was, okay, speak to ask, and that was kind of it, really. I have access to counsellors sort of the last half of my degree, and had some great sessions there, but the majority of my support came from my GP and external charities that could help me specifically, really. But even when I did access the university support services, it was fairly quick. It wasn't anything like an NHS waiting time. And I think actually that's a real achievement for Student Affairs.
I completely agree. As a first-hand user of the support services, I've noticed that the university's waiting time of approximately 12 weeks is actually, yes, sometimes in some cases it can be 12 weeks, but in most cases it's nothing like that. It's a month at most. And the support I've been getting from student affairs and the university and some of my colleagues on my course has been really good, because we've all worked towards one end goal. Ash, have you had any experience?
Yeah, like I used to like join some societies like to actually like take out the stress, because like basically I didn't really go to counseling or like have like medicine, so I just had to like motivate myself. I used to join BCU kickboxing because like I felt like it just helped like self-defense, and it also like take my anger out like on the boxing thing. So I was like, okay, this is helping a lot. So I also used to join BCU yoga because that was really helpful. Like it just clears your mind as well. It's like really like recommend it. It's really good. And also I used to have my own society. Like I actually wanted to be like more like independent, so I just like created a Bollywood society, like teaching dance and acting. So that really helped me a lot, and like it actually just motivated me a lot throughout the third year and second year.
Okay. Chloe?
Personally, I haven't dealt with anything that's been diagnosed, but I think for me, if I sometimes do get anxiety, and so I think for me, being a part of the Mental Health Awareness Societies, it really helped me in a way, because I've got to meet so many people that have experienced a lot worse than me, but it's been a bit of a support, because I know like, oh, they've been through that as well, so I'm kind of not on my own. So being with those people has just really helped me get through that day, I guess. So yeah.
Okay, our second to last question is, are there any tips that you can give regarding examinations and revision stress? So that's open to the whole panel.
I have to say, that's quite an open kind of question in relation to, well, what's causing the stress? Is it the pressure of, as you say, the awareness of I have to achieve this to achieve a bigger aim? Is it the timelines involved? And this is the thing about stress within this setting. There's stress as an actual contextual, environmental situation, and then also the stress of how you feel about it. So although practically it's almost not what people want to hear, there is no magic pill, it is about time management, being aware of yourself, being aware of when you procrastinate, which we all do, but that will obviously make the end result even worse if you leave everything and then suddenly cram everything into the next 24 hours and then feel guilty and have negative thoughts about yourself as a bad person, thinking, why didn't I do that earlier? So if there is stress in that particular context and you find yourself being in that situation when you're alone, perhaps it will be more worthwhile studying with a group of friends where you can keep track of each other, or have a timetable saying, right, I'm going to revise for 20 minutes, then I'm going to have a break and a cup of tea, and then I'm going to do this. People will have jobs as well that will have to manage. I would say as well, never compare yourself when you're a student to what you perceive other students are doing, because you will always perceive them to be doing something better than you're doing. And it's not the case at all. They're probably experiencing the same levels of anxiety about something possibly different. But that can create a lot of negative emotion, that comparison. So it's very easy for me to say, don't compare yourself. But don't think that someone who revises better, has a better technique, has a better strategy. Just work on what you're able to manage.
I think just from what Sophie's saying there about comparing yourself, so the course I did was project-based rather than exams and revision. And actually that whole going through every module of comparing your own work to others, and it does just give you the negative thoughts of, they're doing better than me, they're achieving more than me, their work is nicer than mine. And it really, really makes your course so difficult. And stepping away from that and looking at your own work and getting, I guess, the support of your tutors to progress forward is actually better than comparing yourself to others, I think. Would
you like me to add to that? What I would say is quite a common difficulty that people come to talk to me about in terms of managing deadlines and assignments. They might come and say, I've got way too much to do and no time to do it in. But when we actually sit and break that down, actually it does feel more manageable when we kind of work through how long have you got to do it, how long would this usually take, how are you going to manage your time, but also being aware that if you're the sort of person that spends all of your time working, that can also be detrimental to your mental health and may not achieve the results that you're hoping for. So do make sure you put in plenty of breaks as well in amongst the kind of study time.
Yeah, I would like to add to that. So basically, like, I would say, like, don't compare yourself to others, because, like, that just, like, loses your confidence in, like, your grade as well as yourself. And so basically, like, it's about, like, whatever you get, like, whatever grade you get, it doesn't really, like, matter to other people. Like, just work hard, really, and just, like, even if you don't get the grade that you want, like, you don't need to cry about it, because it's about, like, your career doesn't depend on it, because it just depends, like, how hard you work and how hard you can do the job as well. And also, like, when it comes to, like, studying, because when I was a student, like, it was really, like, tough to even study. Like, I used to try and find, like, a really quiet place at university, and sometimes it wasn't that easy. So I used to go to this, like, recording studio in, like, one of the BCU campuses, and that was, like, really quiet. I used to just do my work there. And basically, like, I never used to, like, do group studies as much, so I used to just work independent and just get where I am, like, today.
Okay, that leads us to our final question. As the whole panel has experienced their first year at university, what tips would you give first year's freshers to reduce their stress and anxiety during their first year of university?
Break down what you need to do, get support if you need it, whether that be from your personal tutor, your GP, student affairs, time management. Use your calendar on your phone, use a diary, use Outlook to keep on top of your time, what you need to do, manage when you're working, when you're doing uni work. In my case, manage when you've got childcare and when you haven't. Just keep on top of everything rather than procrastinating and sort of let it fall by the wayside.
Sophie?
Ask questions. Don't be afraid of asking questions. I think no matter what age group as well, because just because you're in first year doesn't necessarily put you in a specific school leaving age bracket. You're kind of finding your feet. It might be a completely new environment, but from an academics point of view, I would rather a student ask me the same question 10 times and then they were confident of what they needed to do in the answer, rather than sit at home and worry and get it all wrong.
I completely agree. As a trainee teacher, that's one of the things that we've been told to sort of prepare ourselves for, that a student will ask you, 10 students will ask you the same question 20 times in 1 hour, and that you've got to be prepared to say the same thing over and over again so that it sticks and that they can go home and repeat it at home. Chloe, as a first year yourself, do you have any tips?
I think before I actually came to uni, I felt quite overwhelmed by the amount of things like I had to get and what I was going to do, because I hadn't studied it before, so I was a bit overwhelmed. But I found that writing lists has always worked for me. So it was like before I actually like moved into my flat, I was like, oh, I've got to get this, I've got to get that, and just write a list. And I was like, when that was done, I just ticked it off and I just felt better. So I think just being proactive in that way will definitely help.
Okay, Ash?
I would say that like the tutors are like really helpful, because like when I was like a student, like I used to tell my tutors that I was having trouble with my coursework. This was like in second year and third year, because first year I was just a shy, quiet girl, so nothing really fun there. So basically, like as I said, like tutors are really helpful. Like just tell them like what's happening, and they will actually help you out like a lot. Because in my course I did visual communication, and basically I was like nearly like about to drop out of university because the stress was that much. And then like the tutors used to like support me and say to me that like if you just get your work like like one by one, like get your work done like slowly and slowly, because they used to give me extra time as well. So it was like really helpful for that. So for first years, I would say that like talk to your tutors as well, and also just like clear your mind, just sit in a nice quiet place and then like write down the things that you want to get done, and then that's it.
Becky?
So first year can be very much a time of transition. For some people it's moving to a new area, moving into new house or home. For others it could be that they're living locally but they're juggling families and work and other commitments. So obviously we all bring our own differences to the first year. But what I would say is a lot of people do worry about settling into university, getting used to the new way of working and the new way of submitting assignments and assessments. And it is getting used to that new environment and that new course or whatever it is you're studying. A lot of people worry about making friends in the first year. That seems to be quite a common worry that people come to talk to us about. And a lot of people worry if they've maybe missed welcome week or they're not living in halls and think that they've missed their chance to make friends and meet other people. And what I would say is you definitely haven't. You can, get involved in societies at any point, even if you've missed welcome week and you haven't signed up in that week. You can get involved in union activities, you can get involved in course activities, and there's loads of time, even if you haven't in the first couple of weeks, found the people that you may want to spend more time with. There's plenty more time to do that. And even if you're in second and third year, there's still time to get involved in those things as well.
Okay. I believe that's all the questions we have. Are there any questions from the floor? Okay. Thank you to our panel for attending this event. Thank you to everyone here attending the event. BCU Mental Health Awareness Week is finishing on Friday, the 20th of April. Check out the social media for more information. Thank you.